Ali Katz. And I mean, it sounds like you could be a Broadway show. You could be absolutely an actress. But instead, you're a meditation guru, a animal whisperer, and an incredible woman that's been on ABC, CBS, written up in all these magazines, 3-time author. Can I just like get down on my knees and tell you what a badass girl you are?
It's so funny. The very first interview I did with a reporter when my first book came out, the first question he said is, "How did you pick your pen name?" And I was like, "I didn't. I married it." So,
oh my gosh.
I mean, my husband's last name is Katz, so it's not. My parents didn't give me Ali Katz.
Okay, so we're Houstonians.
Yes.
Are you part of Katz Diner?
No, I grew up in Philadelphia, and I moved here after college to work, and then I married someone, Mark Katz, and have been here ever since.
And you have 2 fabulous boys.
2 boys,
One
yes.
is, you said 14 and 17.
14 and 16, yeah.
Okay, good.
So,
Oh, driving. Wow.
yeah.
You've got to meditate a lot for that.
Yes.
It is definitely something on our horizons. And I met you through Heroes for Children.
Yes.
You chaired that event this year, co-chaired it, and we love helping families who are struggling with children with cancer. I mean, it is such a difficult time in life, but I feel like everyone I talk to right now is in this zone. I mean, I just look at the women in my Bible study, and all of us are in this crazy pressure cooker right now. Houston reeling from the situation that happened this weekend at Astroworld. I mean, the national disasters, the natural disasters, the disasters created by people, and there's so many things happening, but you help people learn to deal with the stress. And I feel like we're all just like Googling, how do we deal with stress? What can we do? And something that's so simple that you had us do before we started was breathing.
Yes.
Just breathing can make a difference.
I know, it's really funny. Some people are scared by the word meditation, which my job as a meditation teacher is to make it feel really relatable, accessible, use words everybody can understand. But I was talking to my twin sister when I started teaching, and she's like, I don't want to meditate every day. I just want to breathe to not feel stressed. And I was like, okay, Steph, let's breathe.
Call it that.
Let's breathe to not feel stressed.
I love that.
I don't care what you call it as long as you do it. It doesn't matter. So that's the important thing, is just to do it and do it consistently.
And so my husband's wife, that would be me. My husband's sister goes to these retreats where they meditate and they don't speak for a few days. So his joke was always, what did you think about? Because apparently you think, oh, when you're meditating, you're not supposed to think. And I've tried that, but sometimes you can think through the process a little bit.
That's a misconception about meditation, and that's why people feel really nervous about meditation.
Yes, because it's hard to clear your mind.
Okay, I wish I could erase that phrase from the English language.
Clear your mind. I'm like, oh yeah, right. How?
You're supposed to sit down and clear your mind, but that's never going to happen, because as human beings, we're wired to think, and you pretty much have a thought about every 2 seconds. So to think that you're going to close your eyes for even 5 minutes, even 1 minute, and not have a thought isn't realistic.
So you set yourself up for failure.
Exactly.
You're like, I'm failing at meditating.
So, and we don't want meditation to be stressful. That defeats the whole purpose. So I work with people on understanding that that's not what meditation is. Meditation is the act of quieting your mind, not going silent, just sort of quieting it and strengthening your focus. So let's say you are using your breath like we did before we started the show. We needed to bring the energy down a little bit, and so we elongated our exhales. We just took a couple nice long deep breaths. Well, the thing is, if your mind wandered during that, you know what you're supposed to be doing. So I would tell you, if your mind wandered, just start over and come back to your deep breaths again. Your mind wanders, you come back. You're constantly pulling your attention back. And the reason it's so important is because everything we do in meditation is about living a better life. So it doesn't just matter what you're doing in those 5, 10, or 20 minutes. It matters how it affects your whole life. So if you can learn to focus better during meditation and practice that when your kids are talking to you, when your customers are talking to you, when your husband is talking to you, friends, you're more present, you're more focused, and you've practiced with that focus. Because a lot of times our kids are talking to us and we're like, oh, I can't forget to run that errand. And they're looking at you like, are you even listening? And you want the answer to be yes, not no. So we have to learn, to focus and be present. And it helps all areas of our life.
It does. And just to stop enough to really look someone in the eye. It's difficult for me when we get to go to events again, and you're at an event and you're talking to someone and they're like looking behind you and not even looking at you. You're just like, oh, sorry to bother you, that I wasn't that important for the conversation. So it's something I've tried to adopt, is when I feel something that doesn't feel like connection, I pay attention to it so I can really connect. And I think that's so much of what meditating is. And I've been writing a TED Talk about living authentically, and you absolutely, this is such a part of your journey.
It's the biggest part of the start to my journey. But I wanted to tell you, when you were saying that about the feeling you get from people, everything is energy. So you can feel. And let me tell you, if you're talking on the phone and you think they don't know that you're typing and like flipping through a magazine or doing something else, they do. People can feel that. They know when you are not focused on them. Your kids know, your partner knows, your friends know. You know, when you talk to someone and you hear them distracted, you feel that energy. It doesn't feel right. And so it's really important to pay attention to that. I actually did something really interesting one time. For 30 days, you would love this. Okay, I kept an intuition journal, and I write about this actually in
I gotta
my
write
third
that
book.
down. Okay.
So what I did was, every single time I had a gut feeling, you know those feelings that you can listen to and sometimes you ignore them?
Yes.
Every time I had a gut feeling, I wrote it down, and then I wrote down what happened to it, what happened if I listened to it, and what happened if I didn't. And every single time I didn't listen, I was wrong. I mean, from little things like my kids were playing they were little at this point, and they were playing soccer in the hallway, and I was like, I should really tell them not to play soccer in the hallway, and I was like, oh, I'll just do it in a minute. They kicked the ball into my table and broke my favorite table. It's like, why didn't I listen to that voice? So I paid attention for 30 days, and I had like a list of everything that I didn't listen to, and I'm like, I'm never ignoring that voice again, and it's changed my life.
It's so good. I mean, I've heard, I think this was a Dateline that I watched. They said most people, before they're even attacked, get a feeling. Or like if you're in an elevator and you feel uncomfortable when someone walks in, you should leave. We're almost told to question our intuition as opposed to telling us to follow. And that's something I've really, Bella, I share this often, but she's been on such a journey of trying to come into her own and know who she is and figure out her purpose. And she's questioned a lot of things. And in the beginning, whenever she would say, I'm not sure that that person likes me. Sometimes teenagers, I feel like, always feel like the other person doesn't like them. So I was immediately going, well, I'm not sure you're reading it right. Or I'm not sure that. And now I've kind of changed that, and I've said, you should really listen to what you think and make sure you're not projecting on them, but feel it and absorb it and know that maybe you should listen to it. And I think it's even better to write it down so then you can see the result.
Well, a good thing to tell her is your brain can get really confused, but your body doesn't lie.
Ooh.
So if you have a feeling about something, pay attention, because you can think in your head and overthink and analyze and get all in your head, but your body, your heart, your gut, I mean the gut brain is called, your gut's called the gut brain for a reason. It doesn't lie. So if you get a weird feeling, you should listen to it.
Absolutely. And one of the things, so you say from political climates to natural disasters to managing the stress of just everyday life, women have to deal with more than ever. Life feels overwhelming and exhausting much of the time. And I feel like so much of us are in that place. So you chose to make this your career. It says here, I read, that it was a calling to connect with others and help them understand the many benefits of meditation and mindfulness. So I do believe with that. We have callings, like when you really hear it so loudly.
Yes.
And I love that you were able to take this calling and like formulate it into a book. Tell us about like how did you know that? Like
Okay, well,
how did that even start?
I call it following the universal breadcrumbs. I feel like the
Oh,
universe like
another good one, girl.
throws like little breadcrumbs, and I always follow them. I sometimes have no idea where they're leading. But it's funny. I never thought of myself as a writer. And when I started teaching meditation, I just had this urge it was a weekend, and it was just like inspired. I had this urge to write an article called Everyday Spiritual, and it was like the 5 practices I do every day. This was like 10 years ago, so some of them probably changed by now. But the 5 practices I do every day to just feel spiritual and really connected every day. And I have no idea where the inspiration came, just I guess from the universe. I felt inspired to sit down, write this article. I wrote it in like 20 minutes. I didn't edit it. I had no idea why I was writing it. And I was like, oh, I'm going to send it to Mind Body Green. And then 2 days later, I got an email like, your article has been published. And it just like, really did amazingly well and got great feedback. And then I was like, I'm writing a book. I think people want this stuff. And I started writing my first book and just took it from there. And then my first book is called Hot Mess to Mindful Mom, and it's 40 tools for self-care. You have my third one out.
1 minute to Zen.
Yes.
We could do it in a minute.
Yeah, it's all about dealing with stress in the moment. And I really think that you need a 2-prong approach when it comes to stress. So, we take a vitamin every day, or some people take vitamins every day, or we eat healthy every day to get our vitamins. And that keeps us healthy and on an even keel. Our body's healthy and, and doing well what it's supposed to all the time. And that's kind of what a daily meditation practice is like when you meditate for 5, 10, 20 minutes every day. You have your routine and you have your daily meditation. But then, even if you ate your vitamin and your healthy salad and everything, if you got a headache, you would want to do something in the moment. You'd want to take a Tylenol, drink a glass of water, lay down. So I feel like 1-minute meditations are the Tylenol throughout the day. When you feel stressed and overwhelmed, you need something to do really quick. So you need like the baseline, and then you need what you can do really quickly to come back to center and regroup. And that's what 1 Minute to Zen is all about. And that's a misconception I actually had when I started meditating. And I think a lot of people feel this way, so I try to be really honest talking about it. I had this idea that if I, when I really got into meditation and I was meditating every day, I would just like be really zen and never feel stressed. And that is so not the case. And I think people don't understand that you are human and you're going to have human emotions always, and stress is never going to stop coming, but you have to get better at dealing with it. So now something that would put me into a tailspin doesn't, or something that would have me huffing and puffing for 2 hours, I can get out of it with a 1-minute meditation. Or it's about how quickly you recover and come back to center, and how thoughtfully you move forward, how you're able to see the lessons, have compassion for yourself and others, less judgment. So it's all of those things. It's not that you're never going to feel stressed or angry, upset again. It's just what you do with it becomes a lot different.
And I have found, I grew up Catholic, so I even was kind of told the prayers you were supposed to pray.
Well, prayer is a great meditation.
But it is, and then I realized that prayer was meditation, and it's a way to calm yourself. And when I would go through a meditation practice with someone who wasn't actually using the word God, but that was who my higher power was, I could turn to him. So at first I was like, ooh, I'm not sure this is for me. And I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly the same thing. We just have different ways of doing it, and so many different religions. Ours is the rosary, but there's different.
Well, there's mala beads.
Yes.
Look exactly like the rosary. They just don't have a cross on them. I mean, listen, the basis of every religion out there is being a good person and love and compassion. So but meditation is not religious. I mean, it can be if you use
want
prayer,
it,
or you make it religious, but everyone can meditate. It doesn't have to be anything religious about it. You're calming your body. If you can breathe, you can meditate. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that.
And I love too when you talk about compassion, because I feel like such a part of calming is having compassion for yourself as much as we have compassion for others.
Absolutely.
And that's such a hard thing, specifically for these young kids that are trying to figure out who they are. And I think some people think that if you're Zen, like you said, if you're spiritual, if you're really walking the walk, you're not going to feel things.
That's
And
not true.
it's so not true. And it's really how you, I love this word, how you recover from stress quickly with ease in order to live a more mindful and joyful life. It's not saying you're not going to have pain, you're not going to go through trials. It's teaching you how to go through it. And something else I read that I loved is patience is the way you behave while you're waiting.
Yes. That's a really, really good one.
It's so hard.
It's funny. This is something, that's perfect to talk to your daughter about. You said she's finding her way in a lot of areas. And for example, I had this conversation with my son just yesterday. He, felt like he could have done something differently in a situation. And I said, you know what, sweetie, nothing is a waste. What did you learn from it?
Right.
What would you
What's
do?
the takeaway?
What would you do differently next time? How would you approach it? I said, it's not a waste. It's not bad if you learned from it. You're 16. Now's the time. Learn, but as long as you acknowledge and are aware of what the lesson is, then you can move forward and change and do better next time. That is the key basically to any change in life is awareness, and that's the first key. And then you take it from there.
Yes. So you wrote 3 different books. What was kind of the timing of all that? And did you travel around giving talks? Do you ship most of them out? Like, how do you?
I mean, kind of everything. So they came out pretty quickly, like 3 books in 3 years, I feel like, or maybe it was 4 years. I have to calculate the dates, but pretty quickly. And it was funny because people ask me now and they're like, when's your next book coming out? I'm like, I'm done. I compare it to having my kids. When I had my second kid, I was like, I feel complete. I feel done. And then my 3rd book came out. I'm like, I'm done. I feel complete. 3 book babies. I feel good.
Exactly.
And so yes, I did speaking. I traveled. I mean, they're on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and my publisher kind of took care of all that part. I just sort of show up, and now I do. I work with people all across the country for meditation, and I know we're going to talk about animal communication all around the world for animal communication. But I do so much on Zoom now. I mean, that's even companies. I do corporate work as well, and they just have me do it on Zoom. You don't have to travel anymore. I'm in a silk shirt and sweatpants and, give them a great presentation. Everyone's so stressed right now. So COVID actually really kicked up my corporate business because people really need stress relief. So.
Okay, so walk us through some of the steps. You talked about the breathing. Are there some other things that you talked about? The meditation.
You mean in terms of how to meditate or just other things you can do to calm yourself down?
Why don't you tell us both? First, tell us about other things that you could do to calm yourself down. Do you think exercise, is that a time for meditation? Because I've kind of found I like walking the dog and listening to my podcast.
Okay, so that is a great way to de-stress. There's a lot of things you can do. Walking can be a moving meditation. Not necessarily so much with your podcast, but if you were, noticing the breeze on your skin and the smell of the grass and hearing the birds and looking around, that can sort of, immersing yourself in nature can be sort of a moving meditation. But I call it having a trigger plan. What is your plan when you feel triggered? Because when you're stressed and triggered, you can't think in the moment, how am I going to calm down? You sort of have to have a plan. So I tell people, pick 3 things you can do when you're at home that you enjoy and that help you, and pick 3 things you can do when you're out. Because those might be different. You might, take a hot bath or walk outside for 5 minutes with a cup of tea, at home, but you obviously can't do that in your car or in a store. So the 1-minute meditations, your breath is with you everywhere. So I think that hands down should be on everyone's trigger plan, whether you're at home or out, because you can always breathe with your eyes open, with your eyes closed. No one has to know you're doing it. So, but people like to journal, people like to exercise, getting enough sleep is really important. reading a book, connecting with a friend. There's so many things. It's very personal. I love snuggling with my dogs if I'm ever stressed. Talking to my husband. But I usually turn to 1-minute meditations or some prayer first and foremost.
Okay, so we keep touching on dogs. Oh my goodness, look at Grape Jelly
Hi,
over there
sweetie.
loving on him. Adam,
such a
big
cutie.
shout out to you behind the scenes there. But okay, so this is also fascinating because I feel like our dogs connect and communicate. And she's in our office space too, and she actually calms people down. When we're stressed, I notice sometimes people will walk over and just pet her, and it kind of calms all of us down. So how did was this first or second or third or
No.
when did all the animal communication become a part of the journey?
So like I said, I'm always following the breadcrumbs, and I believe that the animal communication part of my business is possible because of my meditation business and part of my practice. So basically, I've been teaching meditation for a long time and working with people on meditation and mindfulness. And I just knew there was part of my path was going to be some sort of mediumship and connecting. So I started doing readings with people with loved ones in spirit, angels, guides, things like that. And I love that.
Wow.
And I love doing that. But then I had one of these, I guess this wasn't a breadcrumb. This was like a loaf of bread. So
this you could not pass.
I got an email in my inbox. I have no idea where it came from. I never heard of this person. I never followed this person. And it was about an animal communication class. And it was one of those free will moments where you're like, I don't know who this person is, delete. Or in my case, I was like, I love connecting. I love animals. That sounds so cool. I would love to learn how to do that. And so I went to the class. And the very first animal was a dog that I connected with. I was like, I am supposed to do this. The universe put me here for a reason. So then I mentored with someone in California and worked and did practices and tons of practice until I was ready to really kind of graduate and go out on my own. And it's just been a whirlwind because I guess when something's right, it's just right. And I mean, I went from just hanging my shingle to, having tons of clients booked and, repeats and word of mouth and referrals, and just, I love it so much.
Oh my gosh.
And I love both. I love everything that I do. I like variety.
Okay.
So I like, one day I might teach meditation, and then the next day I do an animal reading, and then I have a corporate, I like doing all of it. So.
Have you heard the term ikigai before?
No.
So this is part of my TED Talk. I found out it's a term that actually when you find what you love to do and what you're really good at doing, and you're able to make the world a better place and get paid for doing it, you reach a state of flow so you can do it at all times. And you lose all sense of time and everything, and it just all goes through. And it just seems like all these things are your ikigai. Because you don't separate work from connection from, everything is connected in some way with something else.
Yeah, I mean, if I didn't have my meditation practice, I wouldn't be able to get quiet enough to do the readings that I do. I mean, it would have been so much harder, and it just really flowed for me because I was able to, get so quiet that I can hear and see and feel everything that I need to do the readings. It just kind of one thing led to another for me. I know everyone's journey is different. Everyone's process is different. Everyone's process is right. There's a lot of different ways to teach meditation. They're all good and they're all right. There's different styles of practicing animal communication. They're all right and they're all good. I just am very true to what is right for me. And so when people say, well, this person might do it another way, I'm like, that's awesome. But that's not how I do it. And that's okay. So like I said, everything is energy. You find the teacher that you feel like you connect with. You find the communicator that you feel that you connect with. There's something different for everyone, and that's why there's lots of people that do what I do. You find the person that feels right to you. So I believe that everyone finds who they're supposed to find.
So this takes me to what I'm really sensing about you, and I believe this is a huge part of connection, is when you feel like somebody sees you and hears you exactly where you are without judgment. And I think that that's a difficult thing in families. I talk to so many people that struggle with that. But it really is part of finding your inner peace too, that you could look at someone else and say, you're different from me, and I discern that what you're doing isn't what I would do, but I can look at you and still not judge you and think I'm better than you.
Everyone is on their own journey. I explain it to people like this. Imagine there's like a highway with like however many people there are, 7 billion lanes, okay? Everyone has a lane. You're in your lane, learning your lessons, growing, evolving, making mistakes, connecting, doing everything you need to do in your lane. You don't know what's going on in other people's lanes. You make a judgment, you may think you do, you may guess, but you don't know exactly what's happening because they're having their journey simultaneously, and we don't know what lessons they're working on. We don't know what they're being guided to do. So you have to focus on you and your lane and allow people to be in theirs without judging them because we don't know what's going on in their lane. And when you look at it like that, it just creates a lot more compassion. We don't know what other people are truly thinking, feeling, and going through. And we have to give people that space to do what they need to do sometimes, except we need to know what's going on in our kids' lanes. We get like power to kind of go in that lane sometimes.
No, I think so. I've had a lot of situations where I've had a few friends that say, oh, let the kids work it out. And I'm like, ooh, the way the kids are working it out isn't safe. It isn't. I'm a huge person that fights sex trafficking. If we let them go too far into having experiences that aren't safe or healthy for them with drugs or sexuality or people we don't know and trust, then there is a reason for parents to get involved.
Yeah.
So it's such a hard
balance.
It's a hard thing, and that's kind of what so much of my meditation has been, because I feel like I go on the roller coaster with my daughter so much, and I'm trying to be able to guide her without also going up and down and find that discernment in all of it.
Well, I think too, as parents, modeling is so important. So people say like, how can I get my kids to meditate? I'm like, well, do you meditate?
Yes.
So kids pay so much more attention to what you do than what you
say. Amen to that.
I mean, take deep breath. Like since my kids were little, they were 4 and 6 when I started meditating. And they would, see me taking deep breaths all the time and see me, doing a 1-minute meditation, or see me, I had this thing in the morning that, my kids were little. I said, Mommy meditates every morning so that I can be the best mom I can be. And I need that time to be quiet. If you want to be with me, you can. You can sit next to me. You can put your head on my lap. You can read a book. You can just close your eyes. You can quietly play with a toy. You can't talk to me unless it's an emergency, and we went through what like a real emergency is. But you can be with me. I never shut them out of my practice. But, they have to learn to respect those boundaries too, because I want them to be able to say what they need and tell a partner one day in their life, I need a couple quiet minutes. So modeling is everything. And then I remember I was quizzing my son. I think he was about 10 at the time. And I was looking at his, paper for school. And at the bottom, it said on it, you can do anything. In parentheses, repeat 3 times. I'm like, they do listen to me.
Oh my God, it's
sticking. So it's just more with your kids. It's just let them see you doing it. Talk about it. Normalize it. Don't shove it down their throats. Don't force anything. I don't make my kids sit down to meditate, but when they say they're stressed, we talk about what tools they can use in that moment, and then they have them. And I let them kind of drive it. They know their mom's a meditation teacher. They can have me for anything they need anytime. And like the other day, my son was feeling overwhelmed. He had 3 tests in one day. He emailed me from school, I'm feeling really stressed. I'm like, okay, here's a 1-minute meditation. Gave him a breathing exercise to do. Wrote me a minute later. I feel better. They know. You can tell how much I love this because I get so excited when I talk about it. There's so much I want to say. It's just, I think, the best thing in the world.
Okay, so somebody is a mom. So me, I want you to help our family. What ways could we connect with you? Do you do Zooms around the country?
I do Zooms
Do you
around
meet
the
in
country.
person with some
I
people?
used to meet in person, but
Uh-huh.
pre-COVID, I did. I had a beautiful, I called it my Zen Den teaching space in my
Aw.
house. It was so gorgeous. And then my husband still has not been back to work since
yeah.
March 13th, 2020.
Wow.
And after him 10 months working in our mudroom with like shoes and backpacks, we made that a real office. So I don't have a teaching space anymore. So now I do everything on Zoom. Or in Houston, I could go to someone's house. But basically, I work with adults and teens separately because teaching adults and kids can be different.
Yes.
And so I kind of like to separate that. I mean, I've done family sessions before, but I think it's much more productive to separate parents and teens. I don't work with kids younger than teens. Meditation teachers do, but it's just not my niche. So I start with, I say like 10 and up, and kids have to come to me voluntarily. I won't take any kids whose parents are making them come.
So good.
A nightmare.
That's
for them, for me.
You're like,
I'm
I
like,
can't help with this.
When I was starting my business, I took everything. Building a business, you want to say yes to everyone.
Yes.
I was like, okay, it's time for some boundaries, and I can't be everything to everyone.
Right.
So that's okay. So I work with kids probably like 10, 12 and up, and then I work with tons of adults. So I usually, I won't see someone one time. It just doesn't set them up for success.
No.
If someone wants to work with me, they have to see me a minimum of 3 times.
Got it.
So that they have time to really
process,
work through, ask questions, dive deeper. And that's just another boundary that I set because I don't want people to meditate one time and give it up and say meditation doesn't work. It only works if you do it. So you have to, put a lot, more time and energy. And so if I see people a few times, they're more motivated to stick with it.
Okay, let's talk about dogs.
Okay. You ready?
I want help with Grace Kelly. This one acts like she is. Oh, are you going to show her, Adam? Yes. She sleeps like this all day, and when we go home, she's a crazy dog.
Oh.
So what are the, and she talks to us a lot. She uses her snorting.
Okay.
So she barks at you when she wants treats. Like she gets home and she wants treats nonstop. So what are some of the things? Are dogs telling you that your parenting is off? Because I'm not giving her fair boundaries, and I'm like, quit barking at me. Here's a treat.
Well, here's the thing. Without talking to her in a session, I can't
You can't assess.
to guess because I don't want to just go off previous things that might not relate to her. But one thing to know about your pets is they feel everything. They know everything that's going on. I mean, you could kind of think about, has she seemed a little different since your daughter's been having her health issues? That's something that, would not surprise me at all. Dogs, not only dogs, I work with a lot of dogs, but I work with any animal. I've worked with cats, dogs, guinea pigs, a gecko, birds, whatever.
Wow.
Horses. But I work mostly with dogs, and they have told me things in readings that you wouldn't believe, like miscarriages that people have, learning disabilities that the kids have, anxiety, depression, eating disorders. They know everything that's going on. So they're really, really in tune, and they're always talking to us. And what I tell people is, I'm always here for you. I like reading animals is my happy place, and I love doing it.
Okay, so is that the most fun of your roles?
I mean, the animals are just pure joy.
Right.
But I also teach people how to communicate with their own animals better. So there's a 1-hour class that I do
fun.
to empower people to start learning how to communicate with their own animals as well. So that is another thing that people can do with me too.
And do you have group classes where you sign up, or is it all individual?
Both. I do about once a quarter offer a group class, and getting on my newsletter is the best way to hear about that. But if somebody didn't want to wait and they wanted to do it by themselves, I could totally do that too. I'm pretty flexible.
I love it. So exciting. So authenticity, we've talked about that. Do you feel like when you meet someone, you get is it part of you understanding people? Do you feel like you read energy better? is it also go into what you can sense from your ability to really go into almost another realm too?
It's kind of all of that. Now, the way I am is when I am going to connect with animals or loved ones in spirit or guides or angels, I'm really focusing and dedicating that time. I don't walk around with having spirits talk to me all day. Like I don't. That's some people do, but I don't. And you know what?
I think that would be
I
so emotional.
Live my
to
life
have
and function.
Spirits every day.
It's a lot. It would be too much. So I can't function as a mom, a wife, a business owner. Like when it's time for me to connect, I sit down, I open up, I'm open for business, come,
right.
you know, and then when I'm done, thank you, and I'm closed until the next time.
Yeah.
But I do feel like, I mean, I'm very, very sensitive to energy. So I get a lot of just those gut feelings that we talked about. And it was a process. I mean, this has really been a journey and a transformation for me. You know, the whole first part of my life, I didn't live authentically. I didn't listen to my gut instincts. I was a follower as a teenager. This was really a lifetime journey to get to this place. I had so many, and still do have lessons to learn. So many of them were never done learning and growing. But I finally feel like in the past 10 years, I've gotten to be so much more my authentic self, and now I feel like I truly am. But I had to go on a journey to learn about who I really am and who I was, and where I needed to change and where I needed to grow, and put a lot of time and energy and work and dedication into that. You know, change doesn't just happen. You have to work at it, and my journey is never ending. So who even knows what I'll be doing in 10 more years? I mean, it probably will be this, and there might be something else thrown in the mix, and I think it's exciting to find out. I think we're the best surprise there is. Who are we turning into? Who are we evolving into? So I try to just never stay stuck.
I love that. And I think it's so true. I became the Vintage Contessa 10 years ago. I envisioned the person I wanted to be, and I started living that life. And I think so many people don't realize that you can become who you want to be, and there's so much inside of you that you're not using, and everything we need, we have.
Yeah, we do. We just have to tap into it, you know, and it's really...
And it's work. It's not easy, and
but
it's constant every day.
And giving yourself the time to do that.
Yeah,
every
it's
day.
reflection.
You know, and it doesn't have to be turning your whole life upside down. Set your alarm 10 or 15 minutes earlier in the morning and give yourself a couple minutes to connect, to quiet, to journal, to say a prayer, whatever feels good to you. But do it, and do it consistently. Results come from being consistent. If you want to lose weight and you eat one salad, that's not going to do anything. But if you eat a salad every day instead of a cheeseburger, you're going to get healthier.
Right.
If you want to change and grow and evolve, you have to work on it every day. You can't do it once or twice and think life's going to be different. So it's really having that expectation of you're worth it and understanding that it takes consistency.
Wow. So do you have any parting words or stories to share with us? Because you have so many great stories. We didn't even have time to venture into them.
I know, there's so many. You want me to tell one animal story?
Yes,
okay.
I do.
All right, this is one of my favorites.
Okay.
So this is when I was still practicing, and it was maybe it wasn't the first horse, but it was one of the first few horses that I ever read. And when I was living.
Okay.
This one was. I do work with animals alive and in spirit, but this horse was alive. So when I was doing my training, half the questions that people gave me had to be called verifiable. So they knew the answer, and they were basically quizzing me.
Oh, it was a test to see if it was legit.
To see if it was legit. Was I getting the right answer? Was I really connecting with their animal? So half the questions had to be something like that. So one woman asked me about her horse. What is hanging in the stall next to the door? And I'm like, okay, I connect with the horse, and I get all the information. I don't know really anything about horses, and I'm not like a vet. I'm not like an animal trainer. I just communicate with them and get the answers. But that's a benefit, I think, because I have no filter. I'm not judged. Like, I say what I get from the animals, and that's it. I don't know what horses have in their stall. I've like never been in one.
And you wouldn't even know what to call it.
No, I didn't even, in that reading, she was like teaching me the right words. Okay, I didn't even know. And so I said, there is a picture of you and your horse in the stall next to the door. I don't know, do people do that? I was like, that's what I'm seeing, a picture of you guys. And she's like, starts going, oh my gosh. I'm like, what? She goes, well, what I was thinking was the salt lick, which is apparently horses like lick salt, and there's one hanging. But next to the salt lick was a picture that a little girl that hung around the barn drew of the horse and the horse's mom, and she framed it and put it in the stall. And so that's not what she was thinking about, but that was what was important to her animal. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever.
Oh my
so
God.
that's just one simple story, but it's just so cool. I love it.
That's so sweet. Well, I believe in Rainbow Bridge, so I do believe they
Yes.
go somewhere else.
I talk to a lot of animals in spirit.
Yes, I
Yeah.
bet you do, because it's such an emotional part of the family.
It is so emotional, and people just want to check on their animals and make sure they're okay. And those are very emotional readings. We talk about a lot of favorite memories and
Aw.
stories and things like that.
So do you have animals?
I have 2 dogs.
Okay.
Yes.
Super cool.
They are just my besties.
Okay, well, I absolutely want to work with you. I want to learn some meditation practices
Awesome.
myself, and I want to work with you with Grace Kelly, and we'll see if Bella wants to work with you, because we're going to leave that up to her.
That is totally
And
up
then
to
we'll be
her.
posting those on Instagram, because I feel like we all can learn from each other, and then just by these experiences, it strengthens our journey, and we can just learn from every other person that we're around. And your energy is so strong and so positive.
Thank you.
It really and I was working on my TED Talk this week with my speech consultant, and I was saying, God, I had to pull myself together this week. Like, I really had to self-talk myself to get through some stuff. And she's like, why? What was going on? And I said, I could think just Bella's health journey affects me, and I feel so weighted down by it. And I said, so I listened to these podcasts, and that's when it was talking about accepting the part of your journey that might last longer than you think it should, and coming to a place of peace with that. So it really resonated when I keep reading about what you're saying. Is it's getting to a place that we can get the stress level down more quickly, and we're
And-
not going to eliminate it.
No.
We're not going to have, because you accept whatever religion in your life doesn't mean things are perfect. When you're with the right spouse, it doesn't mean you're not perfect. When you get in the right school, I mean, nothing's going to make it perfect.
No, and it's not about perfection, it's about progress. It's just about being a little tiny percent better than you were yesterday. That's in my prayers every morning to my guides and angels. Help me be just 1% better than I was yesterday. You know, just help me do a little more. Pause quicker. You know, just choose my words more carefully. We're never going to be perfect. That's not what we're here for. I heard
Yes.
this great story where someone was asking his teacher. He made a mistake, and I won't get into it, but I want to tell you like the end. And the teacher said to him, you know, we're not here to be angels. God has enough angels. We're here to learn.
Wow.
We're not meant to be perfect. So it's just about making progress and doing better. And that's it.
It is. Well, I love
So,
that.
Yeah.
Hugs and
Thank
kisses.
you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
sweet
you.
friend. And boy, we are going to be living the authentic life. How do they find you on Instagram? What's your website?
Ali Katz _ and then it's alikatz.com.
All right, great. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.